Hi everyone, my name is Daud and I welcome you all to Shiv Jyoti online classes. Today I would like to talk to you about chapter 10 Kabuliwala. So before we start the chapter, we would first like to know about the writer because that's something we always do and that's a very important thing to do. So chapter 10 Kabuliwala, Rabindranath Tagore, a Bengali writer who won the Nobel Prize for Literature, wrote novels, essays, short stories, travelogues, dramas and numerous songs. However, he is perhaps best known for his lyrical poetries. Tagore also founded the Visva Bharati University. So Rabindranath Tagore is the writer of this story and he is a very interesting personality. You can read about him later in your vacation time. You must read about him. He was a very, as you can see, he won a Nobel Prize for Literature work. So can you imagine how awesome this person was? Okay, now we are going to get into the chapter. Minnie, my 5-year-old daughter, cannot stop talking even for a minute. She learned to speak when she was a year old and has not wasted a single minute in silence ever since. Her mother sometimes scolds her and that keeps her quiet for a while, but a silent Minnie seems so very unnatural that I cannot bear it long. So the writer is observing her daughter and he is talking about her daughter. He is saying that his daughter is very talkative. She talks too much and she learned to speak when she was just 1 year old. Some children learn to speak early, some children learn to speak late. The daughter of the writer Rabindranath Tagore, as he has mentioned, Minnie, she's 5 years old and she's very talkative and she learned to speak when she was just 1 year old. So here we have our internal question number 1. When did Minnie learn to speak? Minnie learned to speak when she was a year old, all right? So sometimes the mother of the child, she asks her to, do not talk much, beta. Sometimes you should stay quiet, do not talk that much because she's all the time talking. But mother sometimes says, you should not talk that much and sometimes she'll be quiet. But her father, Rabindranath Tagore, the writer, the author, he would not find it okay because it's not the usual behavior, it's not the natural version, it's not the original version of the child Minnie because the natural Minnie is the talkative Minnie, not the silent Minnie. One morning I was working on the 17th chapter of my novel. Minnie sat at my feet playing. My study faced the main road. Suddenly Minnie rushed to the window shouting, "Kabuliwala, hey Kabuliwala." So one morning, imagine the scene, the writer is sitting, working on his novel. He's saying that he was on the chapter 17. So he's on chapter 17, working on novel, and the daughter of the writer is with him, and they're both sitting together, and suddenly the daughter is looking out of the window, and she just starts to shout, "Kabuliwala, hey Kabuliwala, Kabuliwala, Kabuliwala." She's starting to shout. She has seen somebody out through the window and she's shouting, "Kabuliwala, Kabuliwala." A tall Afghan was passing by. He wore a dirty loose robe and a turban. He carried a box of grapes in his hand and a large bag slung across his shoulder. He heard her call and turned towards our house smiling. Instantly Minnie's curiosity gave way to alarm and she vanished indoors. She was convinced that inside the Kabuliwala's bag were imprisoned little children like herself. She started to shout, "Kabuliwala, Kabuliwala," and what do we find there? We find a tall Afghan. Afghan is the person who, from Afghanistan, the citizen of Afghanistan known as an Afghan, and there is a Kabuliwala like this and he has this bag with him. Can you see this? So, and Minnie is thinking that in his bag there is other child like herself. There used to be rumors and when we were kids, that people like these who are carrying such bags, they are carrying little kids in their bags. So Minnie first shouted, "Kabuliwala, Kabuliwala," and Kabuliwala was a kind, generous and a good man with a pleasant smile. He was tall and he wore dirty clothes, although because he was not very rich. He was wearing a loose robe and across his shoulder there was a bag like this, large bag, and he came smiling to see, to hear, when he heard the sound of Minnie, when he heard the voice of Minnie, he came with a smile to see, and he had a bag like this. So imagine, I'm the Kabuliwala, just for the moment. All right. So then what happens in the story, we will find out as we advance further. Please be with me, don't go anywhere. The Kabuliwala came up to the house, greeted me, and stood smiling. I could not send him away without buying anything. So I chose a few things while he talked to me. His name was Abdul Rahman, though everyone called him Rahmat. Before leaving, he asked, Babu, where did your little girl go? So this Kabuliwala came to the writer Rabindranath Tagore. He has come and he's standing with a smile, and the writer, he just couldn't help but buying some things from him, because it's not nice when you have, when some vendor is passing, when some seller is passing through your street and you have called him and that poor person has come, then you should at least buy some things for him. Otherwise it's very rude, it's not courteous, it's an ill-mannered thing. All right, so next time you make sure that if you're calling a sabziwala, even a sabziwala in your street, and you have called him, don't just make fun and don't just do it for fun. Buy something from him. So the writer has bought something from Kabuliwala, and in his bag he has some things to sell, and he's selling things, and he has taken out the bag, and then he asked, Babu, where did your little child go? Where did your little girl go? That Afghan guy, he's asking about Minnie, because Minnie was the one who called him, and he, let's see what happens in the story. I thought Minnie should get over her fear. I sent for her. She stood close to me, glancing suspiciously at the Kabuliwala and his enormous bag. The man held out some dry fruits to her, but Minnie refused to take them. This was their first meeting. So the writer is thinking, Minnie should overcome her fear. She has this fear in her heart that Kabuliwala is like a child kidnapper, or in his bag there is other child like him, or he would kidnap him or something like that. So he thought that Minnie should overcome this fear. He called Minnie. Minnie came, and the kind, generous Kabuliwala opened his bag, and from his bag he took out some nuts, some almonds and raisins and walnuts and cashews, and he's offering the nuts to little Minnie, but little Minnie refused. He's offering the nuts, but little Minnie has refused. No. She's not taking the nuts from him. And that was their first meeting. This is the first meeting of Kabuliwala and dear little Minnie. Let's see what happens in the story next. It's quite interesting. I'm finding it interesting. I hope you are finding it interesting too. A few days later, I found my little daughter sitting near the door, talking non-stop in her usual manner, while the Kabuliwala sat at her feet, listening, a broad smile on his face. He occasionally made a reply in his uneven Bengali. Never before had Minnie come across such a patient listener other than her father. So as we know, Minnie is a very talkative person. She likes to talk. She keeps talking. Once she starts to talk, she doesn't stop. So one day, I have seen my daughter. One day I saw my daughter. This is what writer is saying. One day I saw my daughter sitting next to the door. She's sitting there and she's talking non-stop. She's talking to this person, Kabuliwala, and Kabuliwala is a good listener. Kabuliwala is a good man, and Kabuliwala is the only man that she has found, other than her father, a good listener, a patient listener, someone who is listening, someone who is ready to listen to this little girl, Minnie. So this Kabuliwala, good, kind, generous man, sitting, smiling, listening to what this dear child Minnie is saying, is listening. So it looks like they have, they are about to become friends, or they have already become friends. I learned that this was not their second meeting. The Kabuliwala had been to see Minnie almost every day, and with the help of bribes like nuts and dry fruits, had managed to conquer her little heart to no small extent. So, but then the writer got to know, as the writer got to know, that this was not their first meeting. They had been meeting earlier also, and from his bag, Kabuliwala would always take out some nuts and dry fruits and would give it to the dear little Minnie, and that's how their friendship was growing stronger and stronger day by day. Okay? So let's see what happens in the story. These two friends had some stock conversations and jokes. For instance, as soon as she saw Rahmat, here this word Rahmat has been used for Kabuliwala. His name is Abdul Rahman, but people around him, they like to call him Rahmat. So Rahmat, my daughter, laughed asked Kabuliwala, what's inside your bag? So imagine the little Minnie, and she's asking Kabuliwala, hey Kabuliwala, what's inside your bag? And the Rahmat would reply, to make it more humorous and funny, he would say, an elephant. Can you imagine? Can we have an elephant in this bag? We can't. But it's a joke that they are playing and enjoying and laughing. So, hey Kabuliwala, what's inside your bag? Oh, an elephant. All right, so that's how, and then Minnie would laugh, she would giggle, and that's how they would enjoy their friendship. It's really a thing of beauty. Let's see what will happen in the story next as we advance further. That there was an elephant inside his bag was the subtle meaning of the joke. I can't say that it was particularly subtle, yet this joke amused both of them considerably, and I too enjoyed the innocent laughter of a grown-up and a child on an autumn morning. Okay. One day I was working in my room when I heard a commotion outside. I looked outside and saw two policemen dragging our Rahmat, our Kabuliwala. They had tied his hands. There were blood stains on Rahmat's clothes, and one of the policemen was holding a blood-stained knife. I went outside and stopped him. So, one morning when the writer was working, he heard some commotion. Meaning of the word commotion is something shor sharaba, that is commotion. So he heard some commotion outside and he wondered what was going on. And as he went outside to see, he saw two policemen dragging Kabuliwala. They were dragging Kabuliwala. What must have happened? They were dragging Kabuliwala, and blood stains on Rahmat's clothes, on the clothes of Kabuliwala. It was blood. What must have happened? And they were dragging him. So actually the writer went outside to stop them. What are you guys doing? Why are you dragging Kabuliwala? Because he has started to like Kabuliwala very much. Because Kabuliwala came across as a very nice human being. But what must have happened here? Let's find out in the story. What's the matter? I asked. It turned out that one of our neighbors owed Rahmat, the Kabuliwala, some money. He had falsely denied the debt. During the subsequent fight, Rahmat, the Kabuliwala, had stabbed him with a knife. Oh, this is what happened. Actually, the neighbor of the writer, this author, he was supposed to return the money, or there was some agreement between the Kabuliwala and the neighbor, and this neighbor was supposed to give money to Kabuliwala, and let's see, he had falsely denied the debt. So he denied, but that neighbor denied, no, I don't have to give you any money. While he had to give him some money. Maybe he bought something from him on credit, or maybe he borrowed some money from Kabuliwala, and he had to return this money, this amount of money to Kabuliwala, which he did not, and he refused. He started to speak lie, and he started to speak lies, and he falsely denied the debt, and he refused. No, Kabuliwala, I'm not going to give you money. Kabuliwala, maybe he's a very emotional man, and he lost his temper, and with a knife, they got into a fight, and Kabuliwala, imagine this is a knife, Kabuliwala, hurt him with a knife, and that neighbor of writer, he got really hurt. That's why police came, and he dragged Kabuliwala, and police is taking the Kabuliwala with. He was cursing the liar. He was cursing that neighbor who turned out to be a liar. He was saying bad things to him, that you liar, you ate my money, you didn't return my money, you are a liar, you are a cheater, you cheated, or something like that. He was saying, he was cursing him. But then little Minnie came, hey Kabuliwala, Kabuliwala. Immediately, Rahmat's face lit up. His bag was not with him today, so they could not have their usual joke about it. Instead, Minnie asked, are you going to your father-in-law's house? So, Kabuliwala was very angry. He had an angry expression on his face. Of course, why wouldn't it be so? So, he had an angry face. But suddenly, when he heard the voice of little Minnie, his face, He started to smile. For a moment, he forgot about everything. His face lit up, and the little Minnie said, "Are you going?" And this time they could not do their usual joke, which they do. Their usual joke, you remember? What's inside your bag? An elephant. They could not do this joke this time because he didn't have his bag with him. He was being dragged by 2 policemen. So this time, Minnie said, "Are you going to your father-in-law's house? Hey, are you going to your father-in-law's house?" This too had been one of their standard lines. Oh, it looks like this is also one of their jokes that they always do or sometimes do. Father-in-law's house was an address that held little meaning for Minnie and a double meaning for Rahmat, the Kabuliwala. It was slang for the prison. Usually, Rahmat would reply, "I shall hit the father-in-law," upon which Minnie would giggle delightedly. So, father-in-law was the word that they used to joke about, and this man, Kabuliwala, he uses this word father-in-law for place like prison. He meant by prison when he says father-in-law. So it was a double meaning joke for Kabuliwala, and it was a simple joke for Minnie, and they used to laugh, and Minnie used to giggle so much on this joke. When you giggle, you know, this is giggling, okay? You know, when you are laughing with all your heart, that's when you giggle. Today, Rahmat grinned and said, "Yes, this was the first time when he said, yes, today I'm going to my father-in-law's house," because in his mind, father-in-law's house means prison. So he's going to jail, and he's using the word father-in-law's house for jail, okay? This is one of their usual joke, and this time, unfortunately, he had to say yes for this joke. When he saw that Minnie was not amused, he added, "I would have hit the father-in-law, but how can I? My hands are tied." And then he realized Minnie is not laughing. Oh my God. He likes to make Minnie laugh. Minnie is like a daughter to him. And he sees that Minnie is not laughing, then he tries more. He does something more. He says, "I would have hit the father-in-law, but my hands are tied. And how can I hit my father-in-law, but my hands are tied?" So that's when, Minnie started to laugh, and he was happy that he could finally make Minnie laugh. Even, he's suffering, he's in trouble, but the focus is still on making the dear little Minnie laugh and spreading joy in her life. I almost forgot about him. Rahmat was sentenced to several years in prison for causing a fatal injury. So he caused a fatal injury to the neighbor. That's why the judge of the court, he was given this punishment of being in the jail. He was sentenced to several years in prison, which means he had to be in jail, he had to be behind the bars, he had to be in prison for several years. That was the punishment given to him for the crime that he did. He caused a fatal injury. So we should never ever be involved in physical fight with anyone. Remain calm always, all right? I almost forgot about him as time passed, living in our home, busy with our daily work. We never wondered how an independent man who had traveled in the lap of mountains might be spending his years inside a prison. So time kept passing by, and the writer is saying this, that time kept passing by, and we forget about Kabuliwala, and we completely forgot about him, and we never wondered that how a man, crossing mountains and walking on streets, coming to us every day and visiting in our streets, selling his products, can be in prison someday suddenly, and we never wondered about him, that how would he be doing in the prison, and we never talked about him, and we never even thought of him. As time kept passing by, we almost forgot about him. As for Minnie, even her father would have to admit that her behavior was very regrettable. Too easily she forgot her old friend and made friends with the horse keeper. Then as she grew older, she made more and more female friends, so much so that even in her father's study, she became a rare visitor. So the writer, as a father, he's observing his child, he's observing his daughter, and he sees, he doesn't like this behavior. Kabuliwala and Minnie, they were very good friends. But now, this person, writer, is observing the behavior, is observing her daughter, and he sees that Minnie has completely forgotten about the friend. she has completely forgotten about Kabuliwala, and she has made a new friend, this horsekeeper guy, and then she went on making new friends day by day, new female friends and friends and friends, and she completely forgot about it. And the writer, inside his heart, he felt bad, he is thinking that, my daughter should not have forgotten about the dear good friend Kabuliwala that she had, because Kabuliwala was a good man. And as she was growing up, she became so busy, she started to remain so busy that she would rarely visit her father's study room, where she would go very often when she was a little younger. The years passed, another autumn arrived. It was Minnie's wedding. From early morning, the house was filled with people and noise and activity. I was sitting in my study looking over accounts when Rahmat Kabuliwala came and greeted me. Okay, so many years, almost we can say a decade passed by, or maybe more than that. It's the day of Minnie's wedding. She is getting married today. Imagine this scene, that she is getting married today. We saw her like this. She was very little. She was only 5 years old when the story began. And now so many years have passed. She is now a grown-up and she is about to get married. It's her wedding day. She must be this tall now. The writer is sitting in his study room taking care of some account works and seeing accounts work, when suddenly he heard the voice of Rahmat the Kabuliwala. He's back. It looks like he's out of prison now. Let's see what will happen in the story. Please be with me. Don't go anywhere as we advance further. The years passed. Okay, it was another autumn. At first, I could not recognize him. He did not have his bag with him. His hair was shorter. The previous vigor was missing from his frame. Finally, I recognized him from his grin. So the writer could not recognize him because his hair are shorter this time, and he is not carrying his bag, and it was very hard for the writer to recognize him. But finally he was able to recognize him when he saw his smile, because the smile of Kabuliwala was very real and beautiful, and there was something really good about his smile. I said, "Well, Rahmat, when did you arrive?" He said, "I was released from prison last evening." "Hey, Rahmat, Kabuliwala, when did you arrive?" And he said, "I was released from prison last evening, sir." His replies struck a jarring note. I had never seen a murderer before. I felt repelled by the sight of one now. I wished that the man would not remain in my home on this auspicious occasion. Suddenly, the writer started to think like this. What is this murderer doing in my house? It's a special day. It's my daughter's wedding today. What is this murderer doing in my house? Why am I allowing him to step inside my house and to be in here? He's thinking things like this. I said, "We are rather busy today. You would better leave. You better leave." So the writer is being rude. That's very sad. Writer is being rude, and he says, "We are busy today. You rather leave." He's asking the Kabuliwala to leave, and he's saying that we are busy today. He turned to go away. However, near the door, he hesitated a bit and asked, "Can I see cocky ones?" So the poor Kabuliwala, he's going as he has been told to. He's going, and as he reached the door, he asked, "Babu, can I see cocky ones? Can I see cocky ones?" He's asking, "Can't I see cocky ones?" Which means he's asking, "Can I not meet Minnie once? Can I meet Minnie?" Perhaps he had believed that Minnie had remained the same, as if he had thought that Minnie would come running, "Kabuliwala, hey Kabuliwala," as before, and there would be no interruption to their old amusing conversations. He had even borrowed a box of fruits and nuts from some friend to give her. He no longer had his own stock. So this person, Kabuliwala, he is thinking that Minnie is still a 5-year-old kid, and he has brought a box full of dry fruits and nuts for Minnie, and he wants to see her. It's really beautiful, and the love, the joy, the care, the concern, the attachment this Kabuliwala has for Minnie is like a father-daughter loving relationship. So he's thinking that Minnie would come like the old days, "Hey Kabuliwala, hey Kabuliwala," and they would talk and they would have this usual conversation, and they would joke around, and they would have good time, and they would talk. But It's not the case here because it's Minnie's wedding day and she is now a grown up. He came up to me and said, I had brought these nuts and raisins for Cookie. Please give them to her. So imagine this is the box of nuts and raisins, and he's saying, sir, this is I have brought for you, for Minnie. Please give it to her. When I tried to pay him, he grabbed my hand. You are very kind. I shall always remember. Please do not give me money. So the writer is trying to pay him the money. Okay, he's trying to give him the money. So, but as he tried to give the money, Kabuliwala, he held the hand of writer and he said, you are very kind. I shall always remember. Please do not give me money. Babu, I too have a daughter in my country. It's with her face in my mind that I bring these few things for your Cookie. I don't come to trade. He said, Babu, I too have a daughter in my country, in my home country. He was an Afghan, which means he was from the country Afghanistan. He is mentioning of her own daughter. He's saying, Babu, I too have a daughter in my country, and you know, in your daughter, I see the face of my daughter, and I bring these things, you know, for Cookie, you know, because I see my daughter in Minnie. So isn't it beautiful, children? So I bring these few things for your Cookie. I don't come to trade. I do not come here for trading purpose, so I am not going to take this money at all. So here we have found our internal question number 2. What happened when the author tried to pay money to Kabuliwala? What happened when author tried to pay money to Kabuliwala? Kabuliwala refused to take the money and he said, you are very kind, I shall always remember, please do not give me money. Okay? So saying, he brought out a piece of dirty paper from a pocket near his chest. He unfolded it carefully and laid it out before me on the table. So there is a piece of dirty paper that he has taken out from his pocket, and let's see what's inside the paper. On the paper was impression of a small hand. Here we have found our internal question number 3. What was there on the paper? On the paper was the impression of a small hand. Not a photograph, not an oil painting, merely some charcoal rubbed on a hand and then captured on paper. With this keepsake of his daughter, Rahmat had travelled every year to Calcutta, as if the touch of the tiny, tender baby hand soothed his immense lonely heart. So he has this memory of his own daughter with him, which keeps him going, which keeps him happy, which keeps him joyful, which keeps him motivated, and which keeps him going on and on and on. So he keeps that fingerprint, he keeps that print of his daughter in his pocket always. I believe it's really a thing of beauty. It's really beautiful. It's really heart-touching. It shows the love bond between father and a daughter, and daughters really love their fathers, and fathers also love their daughters. Now we are going to continue with the story. My eyes filled with tears. I realized that we were both the same. We were fathers. The handprint of his baby daughter reminded me of my Minnie. At once I sent for her, clad in her bridal attire. Minnie came and stood by me shyly. So writer got a little emotional. He almost, his eyes filled with tears, and he realized that he is also a father like me. I am a father. He is a father. We are both fathers. We both have daughters, and we love our daughters so much. And as the writer saw this handprint of the daughter of Kabuliwala, it reminded the writer of his own daughter Minnie, and he decided to call Minnie. He has called Minnie, and Minnie in his bridal attire, the bridal attire, the dress that a bride wears in India. So she has come in the bridal attire, the Kabuliwala, and she is standing shyly. The Kabuliwala was rather startled to see her. He could not quite resume their old conversation. Finally, he smiled and said, Koki, are you going to your father-in-law's house? So their joke came true. They used to always joke about father-in-law's house. That father-in-law's house is like a prison for Kabuliwala, and it was a normal joke for for Minnie, the daughter. So at this time, he's finally when at first when he saw Minnie, he is a little surprised because he was expecting Minnie to be a small child. But Minnie has grown up and he is in his bridal attire. So looking at Minnie, he's a little surprised, and then he's forgotten about the joke for a while. But then it came back. It came back to his mind. It rang the bell, and he says, "Cookie, are you going to your father-in-law's house?" And this time, Cookie, Minnie, she is really going to her father-in-law's house because she is getting married. Minnie not knew the meaning of this word. Minnie did not know the meaning of this word when she was a kid, when she was a little child, but now she knows the meaning of this. She could not reply readily as a fool. She blushed and turned away her face. Their first meeting came to my mind. I felt a strange ache in my heart. So this time she could not reply with the enthusiasm that she used to when she was a child, because this time she knows the meaning of the word father-in-law, which means sasur. So she is going to go to her father-in-law's house for real this time. So she is feeling a little shy, and she started to blush, and she could not reply the way she used to. And seeing this sight, the writer felt a strange ache in his heart, because he's thinking of the old times. After Minnie left, Kabuliwala heaved a great sigh and sat down on the floor. All of a sudden, he realized that his own daughter had grown up with her too. He'll have to break the ice again. He won't find her as he had left her. Seeing this, Kabuliwala suddenly realized, my daughter must have grown up too. Okay, this daughter is just the age of my daughter. She must have grown up too. And he's thinking sad, and he's missing his daughter. He's thinking about it. He sat down on the floor. I handed him a note. "Rahmat, go back to your country, your daughter. May the happiness of your reunion bring happiness to my Minnie's life. Because I gave away this money, I had to forego a few aspects of the wedding celebration. The electric lights and the music could not be as grand as planned, but for me, the festivities grew brighter with a blessed light." So the writer decided to give some money to Rahmat. He insisted Kabuliwala to take money from him and go back to his country and to be with his daughter again, and to live with his daughter again. So it was very, it might have been very difficult for the writer to convince and to insist Kabuliwala to take money. So he handed him a note and said, "Go back to your country, your daughter. May the happiness of your reunion bring happiness to my Minnie's life." And keeping this in mind, he decided to help Kabuliwala, and he also gave up the other things like music and grand celebration that he could do with the extra money that he had. But he sincerely believes in his heart that with the festivities grew brighter with a blessed light, and he sincerely believes in his heart that he has done a good deed, he has done a good work, and because of that good deed that he has done, God will bless Minnie even more, and God will bless them all. Okay, so this is it with this chapter. This is it for today. Thank you for joining me. I'll see you very soon again. Peace be with you. God bless you.